2001 Highlander. This vehicle is going to be getting front brakes. It's going to get front and rear struts, sway bar end links, and an AC compressor. Now, since one of the biggest do-it-yourself projects is usually brakes, I figured I would take you on a journey. I would take you on a lesson of how I learned how to do front brakes. So one of the biggest misconceptions for a do-it-yourself or just somebody who's not aware, you never ever add brake fluid to a vehicle. So what happens is, as the brake pads wear, the level will actually start to drop as the pads wear more and more. Now, if you add brake fluid and the brake pads are actually worn, what you're doing is you're actually overfilling the system. That means whenever you do your brake job or the technician does it, they're going to have brake fluid come all the way out your reservoir and make a huge mess when they're depressing your calipers. So rule of thumb, never add brake fluid, just flush it. Alright, the reason why we're doing the front brakes is they're getting a pulsation. Probably because they got excessive run out. I don't have a way of cutting the rotors, so we're just going to end up replacing them. This style of brake caliper is a floating caliper, which means that it rides on these slides. So the most important thing for this brake system to wear evenly and to operate correctly is that these slide pins are not sticking. So that's definitely one point where you want to make sure they're cleaned up, lubricated correctly. That way this caliper can move back and forth. All right. Also, the hub itself. Once we get the rotor off, we'll see, make sure that the actual mating surface where the rotor rides on is true. That way it's actually correct. All right. Brakes. Okay. These holes right here and right here are made for if the rotor does not want to come off. Instead of using the hammer method, you can actually screw in bolts on both sides, and it's going to push it off of the hub. Hopefully we won't run into that. We're going to start off by getting off the caliper bolts here and here, and then we'll have to get the bracket bolts, this one and I can't even see it, that one right there. And once that's done, we'll get them out and go from there. Now on these, you could try using the screwdriver method. You put the screwdriver in here and, try to push the copper back. And we'll give it a shot. We'll just grab one of these. So, old school stuff. Get up in here and just pry, and we're going to push the caliper back in. Funny story, when I first started out, I used to hold my face in front of that screwdriver until the one time my screwdriver slipped and I punched myself in the face. So we don't really do this very much anymore. So let me get going on this and we'll catch back up later. Instead of doing the screwdriver method, I'd much rather just use this tool right here. And especially working on Toyotas when you have the fixed calipers versus floating, like your Tacomas and the Tundras, the 18s and stuff, 16s, where you have quad pistons. This tool is a must to get them both pushed in at the same time. So I'd much rather do this and not run the risk of hurting anything. And notice that the caliper is not hanging, it's on top of there. Alright, now I'm going to get this bracket. You'll notice that these have shims on the back. They should. Yeah, you want to hang on to those shims. If you don't hang on to those and put them on the new ones, if required, especially for the OEM pads, you will always have brake squeal. So these right here. This is the important part. These have to be sliding. If these ain't sliding, you're getting uneven wear. Alright, so these are your OEM pads. These are shims right here. I highly doubt these are OEM. These are the replacement pads that we have. You see how they do not come with the squill indicator. This is a squill indicator. So when the pad wears down, it makes contact with the rotor, and that's when your time to change your brakes. So I'm going to transfer that sucker over. Like so. And remember guys, when you're doing brakes for the first time or 1000th time, whatever, unless you're working flat rate trying to knock out some stuff, just do one side at a time. That way you have references. Okay, so we got our inboard pad. Move it out the way. We got our outboard pad. There is something that we can do since these are not the greatest quality of brake pads. So back in the day, you have this stuff from BG. It's called Stop Squill. You just put a little bit on there. Get a good clean rag. And this is what I used to do for any aftermarket vehicle that I would do at the dealership. And this is going to help prevent that unwanted brake squill. A lot of times the brake squill comes from brake dust from people not actually cleaning their rims or brakes or whatever, have you. If the car's been sitting for a while, if it rained, all those heavy things. So I'm just going to get this stuff in here, and I don't know what it does, but it definitely worked for some of the cheaper AutoZone pads. So these have the backing plates on them. I mean, we could try to see if it fits on there. Yeah, not even concerned about that. That's what we use the other stuff. Toyotas are really known for brake shift. So when you go from forward to reverse, you'll get a brake noise. It's just the pad shifting forward and back. Alright, slide pins. These have to be free. Now we're going to do is pop the boot, pin out the boot. That actually looks really good. Cool. We'll get the old grease off of there. Set it in place. The next one. Okay. Remember where this one goes? See the different? So that one stays up there. Orientation, organization will save your butt. Alright. Get those. This is what I use. High temperature brake grease. And we're just going to put a good bit on there. Lather her up. Okay, that was this one. Pop. Okay, so what you want to do, if you have air bubbles or whatever, you want to pinch the rubber and push in. Gotta give her the space she needs to slide. Nice and free. Woo, woo, woo. Happy. And then repeat the process. This one especially will catch a lot of air because of that black O-ring thingy thing. See, I just want the bubble out. Bubble, bubble, bubble. Okay. We'll just get her on there. All the way. Okay. Back and forth, nice and free. I've seen people do this on the intrawebs. Don't put no grease here. Don't put no grease here. Don't do nothing in these bolts. These bolts, leave the bolts alone. If anything, just make sure they're clean. That's it. Don't put no damn grease on these bolts. You only lubricate the slide pins. Some people say to lubricate the top of here. Some say do here. Everybody has their preferences. Just don't put no grease in threads. Liquids cannot compress, which means they cannot be tightened all the way down. Okay, the brake kit did not come with new hardware, so what we're going to do is actually clean up this hardware. I don't see anything wrong with it, honestly. We'll clean it up and see what's up from there. Alright, and that was the original hardware. I just cleaned it up with a wire brush. This is your best friend. Just be careful with it. Take some practice. Don't dig into stuff. Just take your time, get used to how it feels. Just don't go crazy with it. Alright. This technique is called a loaded caliper. So it means technically all we're just going to do is just load it up. The slider in place. Really all we're doing by doing this is just making it faster to put it back in. It's called loaded calipers. You do not want to stay in there. Stay, baby. There we go. And that's our finished product. Greased up shims. Cleaned up hardware. Good to go. Alright, it's time to get the rotor off. Let's see. Oh, nope. She doesn't want to go. Either we can grab some bolts, throw them in here, and push it off, or we can do the tried and true method. And just be careful. This. Don't hit this, don't hit this. She on there. Get my big purse. Now, I'm not ever using the rotor. It's trash. Better do, pig, better do. Alright, so the reason why she was such a pain to get off is because around here you'll start to develop surface rust, and it's really a pain. So what people often forget to do, or neglect to do, is take this off. The wire was not going to hurt anything, guys. I'm not going crazy. Probably should wear glasses, but we shall see. Okay. There you go. And we'll just do this. Take the backing plate, get all your brake dust off of there, and spray on the caliper. And then over here. Left-handed. Yep. And now we're ready to reassemble her. New rotor. Good way to do it. Test fit it. You can always do it like that. Good little test fit. Okay. You see the little, they have the tool that holds the rotor in place. I have a tool too. It's called a axle nut. Alright. Make sure she's all the way seated on the hub of the spindle, or the hub itself, I guess. And we'll grab our preloaded caliper gently so our brakes pads don't fall out. I'm probably right in the middle of the camera. I'm just going to start the bracket by hand. I'll have to adjust the pads when I get done doing this. They just don't want to stay in place. Okay. Alright. Tip, don't trust this. Not with brakes. You may think it's tight. Does not mean that it's actually tight. I'm not going to grab a torque wrench, but I'm going to grab a wrench. Put a wrench on these bolts. The reason why I say this, in my earlier days, I trusted my impact, and then the car that I put brakes on came back on a flatbed, missing a brake bolt, and the bolt or the caliper swung around and hit the crap out of the rim, and no bueno, not for a good brake job. So don't trust your impacts to fully tighten your bolts, especially on stuff as important as brakes. All right. Same principle with the caliper to slide pins. Let's start it by hand. I don't know if you can see or not, but right here we have notches. Come here, baby. Come here, baby. There's notches for the slide pin to lock into the caliper. Make sure those are in the correct location. Boom. Okay. Same principle. Tighten it by hand. Wait for it. Click. Click. Now, they got a good sliding caliper. The hub's been cleaned. Slide pin's been greased. The hardware has been cleaned. Everything is happy. Personally, one trick that I use to cover myself, if I touched it, removed it, whatever, looked at it. When I get done with it, I'm going to go back. I'm going to say, okay, tight, 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 tight. If I touched it, I'm going to touch it again, and I'm going to try to remember in my head, did I do it or not? Just do it. Same thing with lug nuts. Count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. That way you cover yourself and you're not running the risk of actually missing something or having a bolt fall out. Accidents do happen, but these are just little tips and tricks that you can do that will help prevent that happening. Now essentially you're just going to repeat the same process on the other side. So that's what I'm about to do. The number one thing that you need to remember when you're doing your brakes, when you get done, the first thing you do when you get into your car is you pump your brake pedal. Don't do nothing else. Pump your brakes. I've heard of people going through fences. I've had people go through doors. When you get done, when you get in your car, first thing you do is pump the brakes. Also, when you're putting your wheels back on after you just put new rotors on, don't ugga-dugga the crap out of it. Torque the wheels down reasonably to spec. You can cause warpage to the brand new rotor, especially when you have a lesser quality rotor. Do I know, have I ever done it before? I don't know. But rule of thumb, don't over torque your wheels on anyway, but especially after putting on brand new rotors, because you run the risk of warping the new rotor. There, guys, car is just hit the ground. Guys, brakes ain't hard. It's not hard. Educate yourself. Take your time. Make sure you have the proper equipment. Be safe. And remember, first thing you need to do when you get done is pump the brakes. But seriously, be smart and make sure that you're equipped with the proper tooling, knowledge. Some vehicles, like your Ford Transit, some of the newer Fords, they're one-time use only bolts. So you could put brakes on your car, and even though you torqued it the spec, because the bolt is a one-time use bolt, torque to yield, the bolt can back out and fall out. So just be smart. Service information, read, take your time. Only do one side at a time, that way you have a reference for the other side. Take pictures, any of those things. Just be smart, guys. Just be smart.